The next step to getting started is we'll be connecting an iOS or an Android tablet to the remote control in order to just open up the DJI Go app and set some initial parameters. So I've got my iPad over here. I'm going to just clip it in like that and clip that down, and now that's nice and secure. And in my box, I've got a cable for iOS. And to set this up, you just plug it into the port at the back of the tablet. And then right here on the bottom of the remote control, you'll see a little port where you can plug in the USB. As soon as that happens, the tablet will wake up. So we can open that up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the DJI Go application. Now you'll see right at the top, it gives me the overall status. If there are any issues that you're facing, whether it be needing compass calibrations or having to do a firmware update, it'll tell you that right there. So right now, I can see it's telling me I need to do a firmware update. So if I tap that button, it'll say, aircraft requires firmware update, download update from the DJI Go homepage. One thing to notice is that the aircraft has firmware and the remote control has firmware too. If you're using the Go app can update the firmware on the remote control, but you have to use the DJI Assistant or put that firmware onto an SD card in order to update the firmware on the drone itself. I'm going to pop over to my laptop quickly and do that update. Do that by just typing in the DJI Assistant. That'll open up, and we can see there it's giving me instructions to plug in my drone. So inside your box, you would have received a micro USB cable. What we're going to do is take the micro USB cable and plug it into the side of the drone here, right next to the SD card. And then we're going to plug it into my laptop just in the side there. And the DJI Assistant app will now register that this has been plugged in. So there it goes. It's registered it's been plugged in. It shows me connected devices, Phantom 4. Select Phantom 4. And right away, the first thing you'll see is firmware upgrade. And it's telling me there's a new version of the firmware. I tap that upgrade button, click Start Upgrade, and there it is. I'm going to skip ahead to this process. We can carry on with the rest of the tutorial. So now that I've updated the firmware, we're going to go back into the DJI Go application and make sure that all of the settings are A-OK for DroneDeploy. We just tap open DJI Go, wait for it to load, and now we'll see that overall status says normal. It's a good sign. Oftentimes it's very good to do a compass calibration. This is very useful when you've just updated the firmware or if you're traveling to a very new location that's very different geographically. The drone will, in the DJI Go application, give you a warning, as well as in DroneDeploy. It will tell you a compass calibration is needed. So we're just going to walk through those steps now. So right there on the top, you'll see on that landing page, you'll see compass. And if I just click the calibrate button, it'll ask me, would you like to begin the compass calibration? I say OK. And you'll see that it gives you a nice little diagram to show you what we should be doing. And so there's a little dotted line going straight down the middle and telling us to rotate it. So we're going to do that. We're going to pick the drone up. We're going to make sure that there isn't a lot of metal around it, because the metal will have that compass interference. And we're just going to rotate it to make sure that it's on that axis. When it's happy, it'll tell you now we need to flip it. And it's now saying put the drone on its side. And do the same thing. Just rotate it. That's it. We've done the compass calibration. We're now going to go through a couple of the settings just to make sure that we're in a great state for DroneDeploy. When you first insert a brand new SD card, it's quite possible that it might be needing a format. And so to do that, we're going to tap the menu button. We're going to go across to the right to that little spanner. If we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see it says Format SD Card. Click OK. Give it a second to think. SD card formatted. There are a number of different settings that you can change in the DJI Go application, many of which are necessary for DroneDeploy to work correctly. We're going to go through a couple of those now. To open up the drone settings, tap on the little drone icon right at the top of the screen. And straight away you'll see that there are a ton of settings that we can change. The first one that's really important to us is this one here called multiple flight modes. In order to let DroneDeploy interact with the autopilot, we have to enable the multiple flight modes. To enable that, just tap the toggle and you'll see it flip to green. The second thing, you can see this return to home altitude. This isn't something that you need to set. This is saying 30 meters, which is around 100 feet. That's probably fine, but if you did want to bump that up, that's where that is. Below that, you'll see beginner mode. When you first set up your drone, it'll ask you if you want to enable beginner mode. Beginner mode restricts how far away your drone can fly from you, as well as how high your drone can fly. So if beginner mode is turned on, you won't be able to do any reasonable missions on DroneDeploy. So we should make sure that that is turned off. Below that is the set flight altitude. If you're flying at an altitude of 400 feet, we need to make sure that the drone can fly at that 400 feet limit. So if you look in your DJI Go app and it says, it's set to say 20 meters or 60 feet, it's not going to be able to fly at 400 feet. And you'll get a warning in DroneDeploy telling you to come and change that in the DJI Go app. That's where you would change that. Enable max distance. This will allow you to fly much longer distances. And you'll see here it says set max flight distance. And if you change that, this will put a restriction on that distance that your drone could fly in a mission. And so I'm not going to limit that. I'm going to have enable max distance off, so there is no maximum on the distance my drone can fly. And there are a number of advanced settings as well that you can start to play around with if you want. For example, there's one over there called remote control signal lost. So this is saying if your RC completely loses signal, do you want your drone to come back home and land, or do you want to continue with the DroneDeploy mission? And so we could toggle that to choose whatever it is that we wanted it to do. Return to home is definitely the safest, so we'll leave that on. So those are the main settings that we need to have set up in the DJI Go app for DroneDeploy to work correctly.